Welcome to Podio Slave, the podcast for music nerds. So if you are a music nerd, you're in the right place. I'm Anthony. I'm here with Tony, Nate. What the fuck is up, Denny's? You guys good?
Yes. What the fuck is up, Denny's? That's so good. I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm great.
I am doing well. Ready to geek out and nerd out with the best nerds in the world.
Wow, thank you.
We've got a good one for you tonight, right? We're going to do bucket list live bands that we may or may not have seen. Could be any time frame too. It's similar to the Tour Time Machine episode we did way back on episode 2, but not necessarily. Back then, we could pick a band that we had seen. We were just trying to pick a time frame that would work. This one might be a band, but it's probably a band we've never seen before. So that's going to be the main segment. But first, I got to tell you guys about my night at Trawl and Nonpoint and discrepancies last week. So I was able to, last minute, because of some shenanigans at work, procure tickets to see our boys in Trawl open up for Nonpoint down in Hampton Beach at Wally's Pub. Either of you guys ever been to Wally's Pub?
I've never been. No, I haven't been. Have you, Nate?
No, I've never been to Wally's Pub. I've been wanting to check that place out. How is it?
The sound is awesome. It's not very big. Like the bands were hanging out. Everybody but Nonpoint. Nonpoint was out back in their tour bus, but the other two bands, Discrepancies out of St. Louis and Trawl, our boys in Trawl, were hanging out on the floor just kind of before the show. So I got to hang out with Sean and Seth for a little bit, talk to them about getting out there and opening for probably the biggest crowd they ever played for, which is really cool for them. And they crushed it. They sounded great. The room was into it. People were coming up to them after, high-fiving them and giving them props, all that fun stuff. So it was really, really cool to see those guys hit a level they've, been talking about kind of getting to and then be there to watch it. It was pretty badass. And not to mention Discrepancies was cool, and Nonpoint still kicks ass. So that was fun.
The thing is, I've never been to Wally's, but I've been to Wally's. You know what I mean? You've been to places that. I mean, is it Hampton Beach, New Hampshire?
Yep.
So, I mean, you've been to Wally's. It's been to a million Wally's in my day, but those are some of the best places. Like sometimes the layout's funky. Sometimes there's like a nook that you can stand in that's, either elevated or, those are places we love. And good for those guys. I think, if the pandemic didn't hit, that show would have come a year ago for those guys, or a year ago plus.
You're right, Twan. I haven't been to that venue, but the exposed wood just basically explains it. Yeah, it's a small club, makeshift type venue. So
yeah, so really exciting to get to be at a show like that again. Watch Nonpoint kick some ass, have the crowd be into it, and go check out our socials. There's a video back there of a brand new song, Ruthless, off the new Ruthless EP, and then What a Day was also played. And I mean, that was for the old school heads, and that's what Elias said. He's like, for all you guys are for the old school, here it is. And that was pretty exciting. So cool times. Excited to see those guys do big things.
Yeah, so we're all here geeking out. But Tone, I think you were geeking out on a different podcast. You left the nest. What were you doing?
I did. You're right. It's a good point. I did. I left the nest, man. I teased it a couple weeks back on one of our episodes that I would be on with the Playlist Wars guys. And that happened last Tuesday. It dropped last Tuesday. We did the Battle of Green Day. So nice. Go to playlistwarspodcast.com and vote for Tony. Vote for me. Vote for my list. I mean, you can vote for them if you like theirs better, but you're not going to. You're here, right? You're listening to Podio Slave. So go vote for Podio Slave. And those guys are awesome. They rearranged some schedules so that we could tape our Brian Ferry interview too. So I've got to give them props for being cool dudes and easy to work with and fun to chat with. So go check out that episode.
I'm about halfway through it. I didn't get a chance to finish it, and I got to say, you already have my vote. So you have at least one vote. And there's a guy on Twitter that said he's going to vote for you, too. So there's 2 votes at minimum.
I love it. Well, 3 and hopefully Nate?
Yeah, you got my vote, too. It's kind of like...
I shouted you out in the episode, bro.
Oh, exactly. So that was a prop. That was an extra incentive. But it's like local sports teams competing against like a New York sports team. Like, yeah, obviously I'm going to go local. Yeah. But no, I actually agreed with your playlist, too. I liked it a lot.
Thanks, man. So, yeah, check it out. All right, so we're going to do our main segment right now, and our main segment is this: bucket list live bands. So bands that we probably haven't seen. I know for me, it's bands that I have never seen before that I would want to. Can be any era too, similar to our Tour Time Machine, which was way back on episode 2. I think I mentioned that earlier. And I listened to that, guys, last night.
Really? Wow.
I did.
You're brave.
Yeah, Glutton for Punishment. Wanted to see how bad we sounded, and then kind of, bookend it with today, where we're going to do it a little better and a little differently. Obviously, that was bands maybe we had seen before. I think you guys picked a couple bands you had seen, but in different eras. Whereas we're going to pick bands we've never seen, bucket list bands, ones that we want to see with all of our being. We've never gotten a chance to see them live and want to. Hopefully, it happens here if it can. So, who wants to lead us off, or do you guys have thoughts?
I have thoughts.
All right, what are your thoughts?
Nate has thoughts. He's scratching his beard for those not having the visual here.
Yeah, I got thoughts.
It's patchy. It is a patchy beard.
Very nerdy looking. Yep.
All right. So thoughts initially, is this a band or artist that is, no longer touring? Does that count? Does it also count if the said artist or band is broken up / there's a member that's deceased?
Yeah, no, it could be somebody that you may never be able to see because they're no longer with us. You can, or you can not pick that. It's up to you. I mean, we make the rules, Nate.
I know.
That comes into play with one of mine. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That might come into play with one of mine too. Huh. Yep, it does. Cool. Depends on if I pick them or not. I haven't decided yet. I get like 10.
I know. Here. I have some safeties.
Yeah. All right, Nate, lead us off, man. What do you got?
All right. So this one it's pretty mind blowing that I haven't seen this guy. Let's see. I tried in 1999 at Warped Tour. I tried in 2000 with the Anger Management Tour, Limp Bizkit. Tried in 2004 with the Encore Tour, which was basically like a farewell tour for Eminem for a while. I just dropped it, right?
Yeah. we knew who it was. We knew.
Yeah. Eminem. Never seen him. Always wanted to see him. I would definitely want to see him in his prime. When my buddy went to Warped Tour in 99, said that he saw him and Seven Dust and Dr. Dre and Less Than Jake and NoFX at Warped Tour. I was like, what is this tour, first of all? And secondly, you saw Eminem outside and some random punk festival. I was bummed I missed it, but I've been trying to see him ever since. And I don't know what it is, but it never lines up. And I've missed him on every tour. And I feel like I'm running out of time. And I know you saw him, Twan, in Australia.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say this, to give you credit, he doesn't tour a lot. So, I think the chances are getting small. I saw him. I think it was 2019. It was it the Kudos Bank Arena in New South Wales, Australia. And it was cool. I think I mentioned this in, Concert Impossible episode where he did like a 30-song medley where he did his verses, maybe 2 verses of songs, and then, backtracked did the hook or whatever. Or he just did, his verses and not the guest vocals. But it kept the show going. It kept the show, like, you were engaged. And obviously I know his full catalog, which is, that weighs in huge. But he was great. He still brought it. And at that point, he's probably, 47, 48 when I saw him.
Yeah.
Pretty rare to be doing that.
Yeah.
But I'm a fan of his later catalog, and this comes into play in one of my picks. So when I saw him, I saw everything. So seeing him now, I think, would be better than Warped Tour, because Warped Tour days, he was just playing Slim Shady stuff, right?
That's true. Infinite, maybe, right?
Yep. Well, actually, that would have been cool to hear that shit.
Very. But I mean, that was it. The catalog was much smaller than compared to what you got to see a couple of years back now.
No, that's a good point. Like, seeing him now might be better. He's in better health now. He's got all the catalog and all the songs to choose from. I would be divided on it because seeing him also, Marshall Mathers LP, Slim Shady LP going into Marshall Mathers LP, like, that's just he's like on top of his game. Everything, his delivery and everything was just, it was I want to say, pinnacle for him, but it was like a different level to his greatness in that age because I think he was living it.
The thing about a guy like that is, he doesn't tour as much, so the window's closing. Clearly, he's not playing out as much, but he's also getting older, too. I mean, are you even going to want to see a 55-year-old Eminem? So there's some urgency, and I know that comes into play I think will come into play throughout this episode, where you're like kicking yourself because you didn't see him, and now you're creating this like maybe false urgency in your head, like, I should probably see these guys.
Mm-hmm. That was one that crossed my mind, Nick, because I have never seen Eminem either, and I mean, huge artist for us as 16-year-olds or even 14-year-olds when the first record kind of hit MTV with My Name Is and all that. So would be awesome to have seen him then, would be awesome to have seen him when Twan did, and, the late 20-teens, 2019, 2018, whatever. And man, the catalog is immense now. And if he's still bringing it like he did then, shit, it's time. Like, if you can get a chance to see him, yeah, it's worth it. So that one fits for me too, Nate. I would definitely pick him.
All right, I'm going to jump in because it piggybacks, honestly, right off Nate's pick. I was actually going to save this one for last, but this one fits. This is Mr. Nasir Jones, Mr. Nas Escobar, Mr. Nasty Nas, the one and only Nas. I've never seen him. I think pound for pound, he is my favorite MC of all time. I don't think he's the best. He's my favorite. Fantastic storyteller. MC in the truest form, more so than, the Drakes and the Kanyes of the world from my perspective. I was thinking if I ever really even had a chance to see him, and I think the answer is yes. I think, Nate, you would know. Did he play day 2 of Rock the Bells in 2007?
He didn't play. He didn't play the New York shows for some reason.
Oh, okay. Because
he was on the tour.
He was. Okay. So I was thinking he might have played day 2, which I didn't stick around for, but it sounds like he wasn't there anyway. And I don't think he's ever come to Maine. I think that's, so I would have had to travel for it.
Yeah, and I'm going on recollection for the Rock the Bells. From what I remember, he wasn't on either of the New York shows, which didn't make sense given he's from New York.
Queensbridge,
exactly. But Maine, he was supposed to come. He was supposed to come with DMX and Eve, supporting the God's Son album, but the show got canceled because I remember I was going to go to that show. I had it written down in my high school planner. I was like, fuck, got canceled. Sucks. So yeah, he's never come to Maine.
He just put a record out, didn't he?
Yeah, King's Disease too.
No, a new one, Magic, like recently, like within the last couple of weeks.
Really? Huh.
I think so, man. Yep.
Damn, I got to check that out. Well, that kind of like he's another one where it fits into the Eminem narrative with me, where I do like his recent catalog. So it'd be fun to hear some of that stuff. Now, I didn't really care for the EP he did with Kanye. Like that's kind of not really it for me, but I like King's Disease, and it'd be cool to hear something from every era where, yeah, it'd be great to see him in 98 on supporting Nostradamus or whatever. But I think now, especially since he's still got it. I know he's older, but he can still flow. He can still rap. Like I know he did a co-headline with Mary J. Blige a couple of years ago. Like that would be fun. He's a guy that I actually could see myself traveling for, and I'd have to because he's not coming to. Might come to Boston, but
right. Yeah, Magic dropped on Christmas Eve.
Huh. Is it full length?
Looks like it. Yeah.
Damn, I think I'm.
Yeah, 9 songs, about 30 minutes.
I missed that.
Well, around the holidays, that's tough, right? I've read a couple things about it. And I've heard people like it, like it's acclaimed. So worth peeping. I'm sure I will too, because Nas is another one that I've never seen and would love to. And you're right, that's the closest he probably gets is Boston. Although Snoop Dogg's played the State Theater. So Lauren, if you're listening, episode 52, guys, let's get Nas up here.
Oh yeah, Thompson's Point. That'd be a good.
I don't know if that would happen, but yeah.
He actually played here in San Diego this fall at the new outside, kind of like an outside shell. It's actually called the Rady Shell, similar to the one in Boston.
Nice, the hat shell.
And I wanted to check it out, but it wasn't announced. It was like almost like a private show to like kind of soft open the venue. It's for the symphony down here in San Diego. So I didn't get to that gig because I honestly just didn't know about it. But I did see him a lot when I lived in New York City, and he was great. Like you said, his voice, like he can't really screw up. There's not a whole lot of notes that he's hitting. He's kind of got that mellow flow. Yeah. So it's timeless.
And who doesn't like a nice glass of Hennessy? Right? Get some Henny, go to a live Nas concert. But again, a guy he's not a spring chicken. He's probably 50 now, and the window's closing, so there's some urgency there, and that weighed into a pick like this, where he's bucket list. I'd love to see him in the next 5 years. I feel like that's the sweet spot. After that, it's like, might be diminishing returns, but So first pick, Nasty Nas.
Good pick. Nice. Both of you guys, good picks. And hip hop, which typically you get that from me. So I'm excited for you guys going that route. My first pick is Radiohead, and I've never seen Radiohead. I came close once with Nate in North Carolina, our buddy Nate. We were going to drive down to Tweeter, which is like Norton, Massachusetts, Foxborough, Mass area, to see them outdoors. And I want to say like 03, 04 range. And Nate had a flat tire and we couldn't go. So it just didn't end up happening. It was a huge bummer. Band I've always liked and wanted to, almost caught them. That was like my concert, regret type of deal. Didn't get a chance to get down there, but they're a band that I've spent a ton of time with over the years. Love just about everything to, maybe not the King of Limbs, but everything else. There's always something for me on the record, whether it be the whole thing or parts of it that I just really love. And they're just such a different, interesting band to me, and to never have been able to see them to this point. And they're not young. I mean, they've been around now 30 years, and it's, they're from across the pond, and people coming our way now is tougher. Getting to see acts like that don't do it as much. And when they do it, it's limited and, probably in a bigger city, I'd have to travel too. So Radiohead's is my first pick.
Never seen him. And it's funny, kind of the same theme where if you saw them in 2022, I feel like that's maybe the best era to see him, because if you did go to that 04 show, you would have missed the In Rainbows album. That album was not probably a speck on their thought process at that point. And their Tom York has a voice that I think he could be doing this, into his 60s. It's not like he's Steve Perry belting out, a higher octave or whatever. It's
right.
But it's also not like Nas monotone. So that's a good pick. I've honestly never even considered seeing them, which is interesting because I do like them.
Yeah, you could call on Radiohead and Tom's voice, because it is something I think he can carry on. And even in this year, 2022, to your point, Twan, I think it may be the best time to see them because they're savants. So they've just really mastered their craft. They knew it then, and now if they're going to go on tour, they're going to be tight. And it's just such an interesting band. I've seen them a bunch live. Amazing live show. Definitely go if you have the chance. They don't tour much. They drop an album and they'll support it. I feel like that's kind of like their normal cadence for the most part. But never been disappointed. I don't think they will disappoint ever. They're just they're one of a kind, right? It's Radiohead. So good pick, man, for sure.
Well, that show that I just mentioned to you guys that we almost went to,
yep.
I think I ended up finding the radio. It like was broadcast, and I ended up downloading it in my downloading days in the mid 2000s from
allegedly.
A radio
allegedly.
rip. Yeah, it was a radio rip, and it was the entire show in pretty good quality. And Nate, we mentioned the Beach House a couple episodes back. We used to listen to that all the time while playing N64 Mario Kart. We'd listen to that live Radiohead rip. So we were 20, 21 years old, hanging out, having a good time, listening to some radio, playing some video games. So that's where the friendships are formed.
Yep. And Radiohead's, speaking of like where we were in location wise, that's the only venue that they come to close to Maine is that same venue. Cause I've seen them at Tweeter Center. I don't know what it's called now, in Mansfield, Mass, twice, I think. And I've seen them at festivals and whatnot. But in terms of Maine, like that's the closest they ever come. And that's a haul. Like that's like a 3-hour drive.
Pretty close.
Yeah, it's not close. Yep.
Well, the other thing about seeing them now is the live show's dialed. Like they can do the lights. Yep. Like they're super in demand. So they can command the high ticket prices, and that goes to the show. It's an experience at that point.
Absolutely. Yeah, now the production is earned. Right now, it's like, okay, we're Radiohead. We made the music. Now we need the production, and we can essentially charge an arm and a leg if we really want to.
Right, and they do. Right, I'm sure it would not be cheap.
Yeah,
that's one thing I didn't think about is cost of this. But I guess if it's bucket list, it's happening.
Yeah, you're gonna do
hella
it,
high
right?
water. It's happening. Yeah,
exactly. Yep.
Cash in your retirement, make it happen.
All right, so round two.
Round two, baby. Let's do it. Who's up, Nate?
All right. Yeah. Round two. All right. So we had just talked about this artist recently. The band broke up a long time ago in the 80s. And I've wanted to see this singer / guitarist forever. And I just haven't been able to pull it off. I'd say that all these kind of tie back to show regret, because I have tried to see this guy, similar to what I said with Eminem. I tried to see this guy in 2009, 2012, and 2018, missed all 3 tours for whatever reason. It's Mark Knopfler, a vocalist and guitarist for Dire Straits. He doesn't do a lot, he puts out a solo album and promotes it, but that's like the exception of it. He doesn't do anything else. And he's kind of obscure, he's kind of not a shut-in, but he doesn't do much other than that. He doesn't do press. You never hear from the guy. As Rob mentioned on our episode with him, Dire Straits is clearly never going to reunite, so that's not in the cards. So yeah, Mark Knopfler. I just want to, he's one of those guitar heroes that I've just been dying to check out.
Yeah, great call. And he would be really cool to see. And I mean, Dire Straits back together would be the ultimate, right? And you're right, they're probably not going to do it, but you never know. There's always a little bit of money, right? If you can find a way to make that happen under the Dire Straits banner, whether it's everybody or a handful of people, however it works, that would be cool. But even just to see him would be pretty awesome, because I'm sure he does some numbers from Dire Straits in there as well. So yeah, good pick, man.
He's 72. So I mean,
is he really?
Yeah,
wow.
The window for him playing out is pretty small. So you tried to see him in 2018, Nate?
Yeah, 2009 when I lived in Florida, 2012 when I was back in Maine, and then 2018 when I was out here in California. And logistically and commitment wise, I just couldn't get to the gigs. I think the 2018 show was, it was only LA, no San Diego show. And it just didn't work. Like I do everything I can to get to these shows. So like the fact that I couldn't make it and couldn't just essentially cross it off the list. And obviously that I say that with high praise because crossing it off the list is meaningful. Yeah, it didn't happen. He hasn't toured since. Obviously we had the pandemic, just we're still in. Like you said, Twan, like he's 72. These kind of legendary guitarists, like they go out on their own terms or they don't go out at all and they could retire any day, and just that'll be it. The book's closed and you just never see them again or hear from them until unfortunately they, in some cases, pass away. So yeah, I'm hoping that he comes back and drops another solo album because that's the way I look at people like this now. It's like, I don't even care about the solo album. I'll check it out. But I'm really just going to see the guy and obviously see the things that I know, which are Dire Straits songs and a few solo songs. But I always look forward to solo albums dropping based on the fact that, this actually means there's probably some chance I can see this guy or girl.
So between his age, the pandemic, the scarcity of this guy hitting the road, all those combined, it's if he tours again, you're there type of thing.
At this point, I have to. Yeah. Because there's a few that have passed away, which I was kind of alluding to earlier. Like, I had the chance. I was a little lazy on it. I was like, it's kind of expensive. But then when they pass away, like there's no return. It's over. So now with that said, it's like if people on this list come through anywhere in Southern California, I'm going to do everything I can to make it happen.
All right. So Nate, our heads were kind of in the same spot for the first round and they're in the same spot for the second round. I was going to kind of tease this one, but I'll just jump right into it. It's an artist that we spoke about in that same episode, the Perfect Songs episode. I'm talking about The Outfield.
Nice. So
2 episodes ago at this point. Yeah, The Outfield, it's a band that my dad has always been and still is a big fan of, and he would travel the country to see them. And I always wanted to go, but I was too young because they would play clubs and bars, and I just wasn't old enough. So I never saw them when they were still touring. And the good thing about them is, they were massive in the 80s, but it's not like they're filling arenas or even theaters. Like when he would see them, he'd be clubs and bars. But it's just not possible. Obviously now we talked about it. Tony Lewis passed away, the lead singer, in 2020. John Spinks, the guitarist, died in I think like 2014, 2015. So this obviously can't happen, which is too bad because they have a deep catalog, deeper than most even know. But I did see him. I did have a chance to see Tony Lewis solo a few years back in Massachusetts, and he was great. Could still, didn't have the full range that he had when they were in their prime, but he could still bring it. He needed the audience's help for a few of the high notes. But that's a band that, man, cult following that it just would have been a lot of fun. I was just too young in really the early 2000s. I wasn't 21 yet. So
that's a good pick. And I mean, we talked at length about them, even off mic with Rob a couple episodes back, just because of the fandom that Anthony has. And it's a cool, like, father-son thing that you have with it too, because your dad being big into him. I have a similar situation with Petty, with my dad, and I got to see Petty a few times. He didn't get to come with me, which would have been really cool. But I hear that, like, being able to catch a band that you love and not being able to do it anymore because they've passed is tough. So, but it would be cool to see them for sure.
So this is bucket list that obviously can't happen, but also show regret. There's some show regret in there. Have you guys ever been down to? You guys have obviously been to Mohegan Sun, right?
Yep.
Yes.
There's that indoor venue called the Wolf Den where they have the free shows.
Yep.
And some big names past their prime roll through there, and they played there in the early 2000s. And I was like, I think it was when I was 20, and I should have just gone to see if I could get in.
Right.
Grew my beard out, just. But
thank you, Beard, for coming tonight.
Yes. Rest in peace. Every time I die, got to get that.
I know,
there.
another band, right?
Too bad. So sad. I'm still upset about it. You just ruined the night. Just like I ruined it for Nate, the Bob Saget. Rest in peace.
Yeah. Well, and we broke the news to Rob that Tony Lewis had passed. He didn't know.
Yeah. Right. Balloon popped.
Yeah. This is the spoiler alert episode.
similar to what you said about seeing people in their prime or after their prime, really, you get to see them in kind of more accessible venues. But like you said with Lewis, like his voice wasn't at its peak, but you get to at least see him. That was me with Lou Gramm from Foreigner. Like I'm still a huge Foreigner fan, and Lou Gramm would do some solo tours. He rolled through New York, and it was like, yes, but his voice was so shot that it was like, oh, okay. So I don't think it was the same case for you. I think he still had most of it, but Lou Gramm, when I saw him, was just, it was over, and it sucks to see that. But
that reminds me of seeing Eddie Money a couple times, actually at the Wolf Den.
The Money Man.
The Money Man, shaking with the Money Man. Yeah, he was past his prime, and he'd lean on his band for backing vocals and probably a backtrack.
Yep.
And one time he brought his daughter out, Jessie Money, and I think she was on one of those VH1 reality shows, but she sang like the Ronnie Spector part and Take Me Home Tonight, and a few others to help him out.
Wow.
And to just basically just distract you from this old guy on stage.
He was doing it right up until he passed, right? I mean,
Yes.
he was playing shows right up until
Hampton Beach
and I remember
staple.
Always. That was
Always.
exactly where I was going. He was, whenever the Hampton Beach like summertime concerts would come out in Hampton, New Hampshire, Eddie Money was always a date. It was always an Eddie Money date. And occasionally he'd make his way to Portland. And I remember Rob telling us that he was in the radio station with him, and he was just like, "Hey, the Money Man's here. I'm the Money Man," to everybody, and like everybody was just like having a great time. It was just Eddie Money just in the house.
That's
Awesome.
amazing. Oh man, he was a character. You could tell his mind was there, and his heart was there, but vocally just a little shot. And he was still pretty animated too. That's a dude that had some stories.
Oh, I bet, man.
Oh yeah.
And he was in that Geico commercial, right?
Yeah. The Money Man. Yep. So that was a tangent.
There's a tangent for you.
None of us even had any money, but I never saw him, so I would love to have seen him.
Yeah. That's another episode.
Yeah, totally. I'm in a similar headspace. I've got the Beastie Boys. I never saw them.
Oh shit. Yeah.
I know. And they played with, I want to say, Tribe Called Quest in like 03 or 04, obviously minus before Adam died. MCA died in 2012. So I wanted, Nate, you remember that show? It was down in Mass. I think it was in Worcester, like the Centrum or something.
Yeah, I went to that show with
I was going to say,
Rob.
did you go? Yeah. So it was Tribe, right?
I can't remember who opened. It was someone.
I thought it was Tribe. I could be mistaken. It wasn't Tribe.
No, I would remember that.
There was another hip hop group that played that show, and I remember being like, I can knock off 2 in 1. I think it was like 03. I want to say it was like 03 or 04. But yeah, they would have, man, I would have been so pumped to go to that show, whoever, regardless of the supporting act. Beastie Boys were a band that obviously was formative. They had obviously been around for a little while when we were kids, but continued to make awesome music through our teen years and even a little beyond that. So to a bit like Hello Nasty, when did that come out? 98?
98. That's what comes to mind. 98.
Yeah, and that record's great. And then the Sounds of Science that dropped, the anthology that dropped when we were in high school with just all the bangers on it. It was a double CD. I remember getting that and being like, these guys are fucking awesome. Like, where have I been? So being able to have seen them would have been really cool, and obviously can't happen now.
That anthology breathed like huge life into them. And it's funny, like the eras of the Beastie Boys, like they started as this New York hardcore band. They, got big with, Ill Communication and Paul's Boutique. And then they did, I don't know if you remember that mid 90s, they did that B-Sides and Rarity. It was like the Deep Cut album that was basically another punk album. And then Hello Nasty came, and that was like a whole new generation of fans. And then that same thing happened with the anthology.
Yep.
I never had a chance to see them, and I didn't even think of putting them in. And that's a band that you could see, or group you could see in any era, and I think it would have been great. Obviously, if you're lucky enough for those, like CBGB's days, that would have been fucking awesome. But even the festivals, because the energy was just above everyone else from the live videos I've seen. Now it's bugging me, like who'd they play with? It doesn't even matter really, because
I'm still searching.
You'd go for them.
It's almost like we have someone on the podcast who was at the show that maybe could tell us, but I guess not.
Pretty sure we missed the opener. Yeah, because I would remember. But,
damn you, Rob.
But yeah, that tour. When I lived in Brooklyn, they played down the street at this place called McCarran Park. where they used to have free concerts on Sundays and Beastie Boys played, but you still had to get a ticket. So me and my roommate at the time, Devin, we could hear them playing from our apartment. It was just so rad because it was in Brooklyn and hear all their hits. We could have snuck in. It was basically pretty easy to show up, and as long as you're in line in time, you get a free ticket. And they got all sorts of headliners, and Beastie Boys was one of them. And it was a free show on a Sunday with just a bunch of sponsors giving away free swag and free drinks and whatnot. Yeah, you missed it, man. But trust me, like if it wasn't for that one tour to the 5 boroughs, I probably would have missed him too, because I tried to see him in 2000 with Rage Against the Machine, but that whole tour got canceled after the car accident or bike accident, and they didn't tour that much either. So it was hard to see him.
Yeah, I've seen live footage, and they brought it even late. Like they were, in like late 2000s, they were in their 40s, right? Still, or like at that point they were already 40. Yeah, and they still brought it. Good pick. That's why I love doing this, because there's bands that I never would have thought of that fit the criteria for me. I know they played with the Roots at the Worcester Centrum in the 90s, but that wasn't what you're talking about.
That would have been good too, man.
All right, so Nate, you got another one?
Yeah, so round 3. Here's another band. Again, I tried. I did everything I could. And for whatever reason, on multiple occasions, this just did not happen. I can't emphasize how hard I try to get to some of these shows. So all these are tied to show regret. This band toured, at least when I tried to see him, 05 to 06. They had another tour 2009 through 2010. 2013 through 2014, and the most recent time was 2017 through 2018. Missed them all these times. Unbelievable. Even worked, or at least interned for one of the record label that the singer was on, Dave Gahan. I'm talking about the one and only Depeche Mode, another 80s band.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I didn't realize how much I like this band until I go to their Spotify page or whatever and just realize I know all these songs. It's like a Foo Fighters. You're like, I know all these songs. I didn't realize I was such a big fan. Well, Foo Fighters is a house band, so that's obviously not a good comparison. But regardless, Depeche Mode, yeah. I've been trying to see them forever, like a bucket list band, and it never works out. I really hope that they do one more round because, they're 80s. I think there is still a demand for them because they're kind of iconic for their era. A lot of bands that we love on this podcast for our generation are inspired from Depeche Mode. At some point, I hope that I can cross this one off because I definitely have tried up to this point, but it just hasn't come to fruition quite yet.
You're not kidding with the demand. They have over 9 million monthly Spotify listeners.
Yeah.
And again, once you get up that high, there's a lot of casual fans that probably wouldn't go out and see them live, but this is a band with a cult following.
Totally.
When did they last tour?
2018. I believe they did a bunch of shows at the Hollywood Bowl. I know they actually played a show down here in San Diego, so we do have an outside shed venue where they came through, and yeah, I couldn't pull it off. But 2018 was the last time they did a full-on production tour.
You know what's crazy? Their last 7 albums were released 4 years apart, and their last album came out in 2017. So maybe they were cooking up something to be released last year, and it didn't happen. So I don't know. I don't know if there's buzz about a new album, but maybe something on the way.
Like where your head's at.
That would be a cool concert. I love Enjoy the Silence. Great song. Wrong. Remember when Wrong came out? That was a cool song.
Mm-hmm.
There's some bangers in that catalog that would be really fun to see live. Man, this is exactly what Tuan just said. I never would have thought of Depeche Mode. I haven't seen him either, but now I'm like, I want to see him. I'm ready. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, it's the band's band, which we mentioned on here. They're a big influence on Deftones. They're a big influence on Nine Inch Nails, bands that we kind of came up with. Totally. So you're kind of going through the grassroots of where did they get inspired? And Depeche Mode comes up quite a bit. And I started listening to their music through that, and obviously hearing songs through movies and whatnot, and really eventually got into kind of a deep dive on the band. I was like, I need to see this band because not only do they make amazing music, but they are a live show band, which, I think this is why we kind of compiled this list. A lot of these all the artists we're talking about you have to see them live. That's why it's on the bucket list before it's too late,
Not that you'd go to see them for the opener, but that's a band that could cherry pick any opener, and it would probably be kind of fun. It's like what Tool did with
Blonde Redhead.
Yep. And Brian Fair said with Slipknot, they cherry picked bands. It wouldn't be out of pocket to see the Crystal Method open up for Depeche Mode, or take out a perfect circle or something. You know what I mean? That'd be cool.
Team Sleep or something.
Yeah, right.
That would be
Side
rad.
project. Yeah.
Because I know you're very correct. A lot of bands have been pretty vocal about Depeche Mode's influence, and they're from what, UK?
Yeah.
They're from,
so.
Yep. Getting over here is a whole different logistical element to seeing bands. They got to make it over here. So the pandemic really makes that, well, at least right now, next to impossible.
Yep. Good pick.
So we're all over the map. We got hip hop. We have, I don't know, what would you even call Radiohead? Space rock?
Yeah.
Alternative rock. You got a couple 80s, and I don't know, Dire Straits is what, 70s from the
70s,
beginning.
80s, yeah. Yep.
I'm not going to guess the decade at this point.
Yeah, you stay right
Nate
out
can't
of
do
this,
that
man.
Nate's not allowed.
Full House. What do you think? They started in the 2000s?
Yeah.
90s OG.
Fuller House. You're talking about Fuller House.
Fuller House 2020.
Big Candace Cameron guy over here.
Yeah.
Big Kirk Cameron guy.
Oh boy. We'll leave that one alone. He saved Christmas again, though, I heard. All right, Twan, what do you got for your next one?
All right, so this is I think this was probably the first band I thought of when we said bucket list bands, and I initially came at this as, all right, who's a band I haven't seen that I love that I actually do have a chance to see? Obviously, the outfield's not happening. Nas can happen. I'll have to travel, but this band has a member that's in a house band of ours. He was in the band I'm teasing first, and then joined one of these house bands in 2010. And I'm talking about Quicksand.
Oh, nice. Okay. Sergio,
yeah. So Quicksand came through Portland in the late 90s, opened for Deftones. Nate, you have that flyer of it, but you were not at the show?
No, that was a true geek moment where
let's hear that. I like geek moments.
Yeah, here's a geek tangent. So that flyer was an actual flyer from the State Theater back in its other heyday. They kind of had a other heyday in the 90s when it was a little grungy venue back in the day. And someone had ripped the telephone pole flyer, which I have other ones that are actually legitimate, and was waiting for autographs from the band. This is when they played the Taste of Chaos tour at the Civic Center. Notably, we all agree it was one of the worst Deftones shows, maybe the only bad Deftones show that I've ever seen. Yeah. And this guy next to me had the flyer. I'm like, whoa, where'd you get that? He's like, yeah, I went to the show and snagged this off the telephone pole. And I said, do you mind if I just run to Kinko's really quick and just photocopy this? And he said, no problem.
This is fucking awesome.
So
and I've heard this a million times, but
yeah, it's still good.
So that's why I have it. But anyways, that is it.
Man.
Quite the story, Nate. And you would grab some random stranger's flyer, run to Kinko's to make a copy of it, and bring it back to him. That is right up your alley.
This is nerd level 10x. Yeah.
Because there is a Kinko's. I know the one. If it's the one I'm thinking about, there is one within walking distance from the state.
Congress Street.
Yep,
Yeah.
Right on Congress Street.
Is it still there?
Yeah.
That hasn't been gentrified into some eatery or coffee shop.
Some escape room or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was they came through. I mean, they were 5 miles from my house when I was 13. I didn't even know who they were, so it wasn't happening.
That's tough. Right.
But then in 2018, they played a co-headlining tour with Glassjaw, and they played the Royale in Boston, which would have been a perfect venue for both of those bands. But I'm not sure what happened. Again, this was pre-COVID, so the urgency just wasn't there, But those the only two chances I had to see them, because they played together as a band until the late 90s, took a decade off from shows, and that decade was when I was going to the most shows. That I would say from 2001 to 2000, the 2000s, and they didn't play any shows pretty much. So I've never seen any of Walter's projects. It's just he's a guy that has been doing this long enough as an icon. Would love to see Rival Schools or Gorilla Biscuits, you name it. And again, I'm going to say the same thing. Seeing him now, you'd hear stuff from all four albums. Where if you saw them in '98, you just hear from Slip and Manic Compression. So Quicksand definitely fits this. I would fucking love to see them.
Maybe it'll happen. Maybe this summer, fall, we might get a tour that comes close enough. We can maybe make a trek to one, because I am in for that for sure. Yeah, and the thing about seeing them now is they would 100% be the headliner. Where in the '90s,
they headlined a lot because they were a thing, but they also opened for Deftones. So that set for opening for Deftones was probably 6 songs,
Right.
Would have been cool. More to say you were there, not because it was cool, not because it was awesome,
Yeah.
Although it would have been, but.
There's a few things there too, because like you said earlier, Sergio's now in Deftones, the bassist from Quicksand. So I think there's probably a lot of crossover or discovery for the Deftones fandom, especially newer era. Like, who's this Quicksand band that's, replaced Chi? Like, is he credible? Oh, he's from Quicksand. What's Quicksand? Go jump on Spotify because I'm talking about new era. Oh shit, this band's legit. And now you're part of this OG cred. It's like seeing a Rancid when you're into whatever's new now. So there's that element. And that tour you were talking about with Glassjaw, another one. I had it in my phone. I'm going to this show. I think it was on like a random Tuesday, and it was up. They didn't play a San Diego show, but it was in Santa Ana at the Observatory. And I didn't make it to that gig, but I remember when it came up on my map or on Polestar and everything, I was like, oh, this is a once in a lifetime dual headlining show. I got to get to this gig, but I didn't.
And that's the thing, is dual headline. You get full sets, and they probably rotated who played first or who headlined. And I honestly think that it is a once in a lifetime. I don't know if the stars will align where 2 bands like that will play out again. I mean, I'm just, this is doom and gloom conspiracy, Anthony, coming at it, but or that I'll even be able to go to it. So I'm almost like,
yeah,
I'll have big FOMO. I don't want it to happen, but I do. That'd be a killer show because it would be a reasonable venue. It would be, 1,500 cap, and it would probably sell out, and everyone would be going for them.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be a fun show to be at for sure.
A nerds show. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, totally. A nerds show.
Yeah, nerds.
How many layers of nerdery can we get?
They're a nerd's favorite nerds band.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. So I mentioned this band on episode 2, wanting to have seen them play on their 2006-2007 tour that turned into their 2007 live album. Do you guys remember it? I listened to it last night, so I know, but do you guys remember it?
I don't remember. Surprise, surprise.
I mean, it was 98 episodes, 96 episodes ago, whatever, 97 episodes ago. So
I don't remember at all.
Daft Punk, they famously blew themselves up last year and called it quits, but I still want to see them. I hope they get back together and play a show. Play me a show, guys. I want to see you. Like, the energy in the room for them would have been huge no matter what. They don't tour very often. It had been years. But if they were to come back after a breakup or ending of the band, just as a one-off type deal, man, places would go absolutely bonkers for just one tour, even one show. So like a Coachella or a Bonnaroo. So maybe that'll happen. And if that does happen, I'd have to seriously consider going and making my way to wherever venue that is, if it's doable. And I mean, I would love to see them live. I wanted to see them live this entire time. And now that they're no longer a band, I definitely wish they'd come back and give us one more show.
I mean, we're talking MSG level venues if it was a tour all day and probably multiple nights.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And expensive ass tickets. But it'd be an experience. It's almost like Radiohead, where the show would be dialed. It would be, you'd get what you pay for, which sadly is not the case with a lot of bands. But you're probably looking at $2 for a decent seat.
Easily.
Right. If it's a one-off, Jesus, you're talking several hundred.
Damn. Yeah, you just gave me some PTSD from when they played in 2007 when I lived in New York City. They played Coney Island, and I remember seeing people with Daft Punk t-shirts jumping on the train to go to Coney Island to see them. And then they're like, "Are you going?" I'm like, "I'm not. I have class, but have fun." But it's one of those things where that's where you ditch class and go to the show. I mean, that was a one-off gig. I think they only did like 6 tour dates on that, even that tour. It's like, so even in their heyday, they didn't really do a whole lot of touring, at least in the US. So yeah, it would be exclusive. And it's very much so. That's like a live show experience all day, down to the visuals.
Yeah. And you saying that, like going, I'm not going to go to class. I just hear Mark Hoppus saying, "I ditched my lecture." Well, you should have just done
girls
that.
Play soccer.
Exactly. Yeah. To watch the robots play music. Like, you should have just gone to do that.
And this is 2007 too. So I mean, he had just put out the song, or they had just put out the song with Kanye. And
yep.
Yeah, I'm an idiot for not going to that.
Did you guys know that Daft Punk is the most punk thing to happen in the last decade or 2 decades.
I did hear that. Yeah, I don't remember where I heard that, but I did hear it. Very punk. They're a punk band. Yep, a lot of punk energy from those guys.
Punk energy, Liberty spikes, studded belts. Yeah.
Yeah, just Google Daft Punk if you don't know what we're talking about.
I think I mentioned this on here before, but one of my favorite music videos, I'd say, I'm honestly going to say it's in my top 10 favorites of all time. It's extremely simple, but we had just talked about it with the episode.
Peter
with Rob,
Gabriel Sledgehammer.
No, it's Daft Punk. It's robot rock. It's got that 80s
so
look.
Good.
The video is like almost like vintage looking. It's like, I fucking love that video.
So way back again on episode 2, you don't have to go back and listen to it. If you're listening to this one, we'll just kind of, I'll give it to you. But
Cliff Notes.
I did say that I think they ended up being like directly responsible for all those beat drops and different music over time since then. Listen to Robot Rock off Live 2007 and tell me there isn't a build up to Into Robot Rock where everybody goes fucking ham.
So like an an EDM type thing, like the EDM.
Oh my god, yeah. When the beat drops, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So maybe they are the OG punks.
They might be. They might be
crypto punks.
All right. Good
well, you know who's heavily influenced by him? This is a tangent. Heavily influenced by them now because he's worked with them is The Weeknd.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Like, listen to Dawn FM. There's some Daft Punk vibes on that all day, and it's fucking great. I don't know. We're not doing a weekend review right now, but that fucking record's awesome, man. I've listened to that probably 6 or 7 times since it's come out.
Speaking of Jim Carrey, he just turned 60.
You did. Happy birthday, Jim.
Bob Saget's death, Jim Carrey's birthday. We got it all.
We've got range, boys. We've got range. We want to give a couple honorable mentions and get out of here.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, give us your honorable mentions.
I'll think of one because I don't have any.
All right, I have 3 that came to mind, and I had to write them down because at least 2 out of the 3 I tried. Rush. I tried my absolute hardest to see Rush in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New York City. I don't think I had a chance in Florida, but I knew that I had to see this band. I was a fan, but I was casual for quite a while until I started to check out some stuff on YouTube, and I was like, oh, this is legit. And I'm a huge drummer head, so I was like, I got to see Neil. Neil Peart is no longer with us, so Rush touring is, from my understanding, not viable, although there was rumors that Dave Grohl would fill in. I don't know if that's still something that may happen. If it is, I'll check that out too. But yeah, Rush is an honorable mention. Another honorable mention is Prince, who did do some one-off shows. I want to say 10 years ago. He was actually doing theater shows, one-offs. And
that would have been awesome.
Yeah, had a buddy, Bob, actually, if you're listening, he had tickets in Denver. I think he sold them. So I think we both have show regret there because we actually could have gone. I would have flown in for that one. I played some shows in LA too, but I didn't get tickets. And then another one, this one actually, out of all these, I didn't put into my main list because I didn't know we were counting people that were deceased, but James Brown played New York City a lot when I lived there. And he played small gigs. Like I'm talking, there's this venue called BB King's. It's like a bar, basically, like you said earlier. And he would come through all the time. It was like a $45 ticket to see James Brown. And I didn't go. And I'm like, why didn't I go to that? So those 3 are honorable mentions for me.
All good picks and all, I mean, great names and bands that I think we all would agree, especially as music nerds, that would be cool to see. I have a couple quick ones. I've mentioned a million times in here. I'm the only one of the 3 of us that hasn't seen Rage. So Rage is up there. The OG Blink lineup. I want to see the OG Blink lineup. Maybe we'll get it this year. Who knows? The Cure. I would love to see the Cure live.
Ooh,
and then we
call.
had tickets. We had tickets to see GNR it was with Buckethead and company. And I think I've told that story on here where Axl couldn't drink on stage. So he just decided they weren't going to play the show in Portland, Maine. But the OG GNR lineup, 1990 would have been fucking badass. 1991, whatever, right around there would have been cool. So those are my honorable mentions.
Great choices. I get 2 thoughts. One thought is, Nate, I'm calling bullshit on you tried everything to get to all these shows because you say the same thing for all these bands. Like if you put the show in your phone, that's like you trying. Like
no,
or you saw the show was happening, like you saw
as
the
someone
tour
who's seen the
poster.
screenshot of his phone bullshit all the time. Like this hits home for me. I love it.
I tried so hard and got so far.
Too many commitments in a small period of time. So yeah, in a week. So these guys are alluding to screenshots of my calendar. So there's like 3 shows per week on a month basis. So you're talking about a lot of shows, and very much so not viable at our age, let alone financially. So yeah, I mean, I tried, I guess, in the extent, but the thing is, back then I wouldn't care about the financial part. I definitely wouldn't care about, bandwidth, because I was young and restless, I guess. So no, I'm going to stand true on, I actually did try at that point in time. Up until at least 2017, 18, there was no excuses.
No, I'm just having fun. And the second, I actually did come up with an honorable mention that if we did this episode again, I'd probably include I would have included, but As Friends Rust. I never got to see them. They still play out every now and then. There's a cool video from when they played St. Vitus Bar in New York from, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago on YouTube. And great show. I'd love to see him, and I think we'll still see more of them playing out and maybe some music. But
I hope so, man.
Yeah.
Now that we know Damien a little bit, hell yeah! Damien's awesome. He's a nerd just like we are. He's great to talk to. Go listen to our episodes of Damien. Fuck, man. I would love to see them live.
Yeah. Cool dude. Shouts to Damien, and yeah, I'm only gonna do one. I'm gonna save the rest of mine for bucket list part 2.
Another day, baby. Yeah, another day. Good spot to wrap then, huh, boys?
Yeah.
Hit us up on the socials, Podioslave at Podioslave on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I don't even know if we have a Facebook by now or not. We might. Email podioslavepodcast@gmail.com. Go check us out all over the web. Just go to podioslave.com. I mean, that's where everything lives. You'll find all of our links to all the episodes, interviews. We've been on in press. We've been on Blabbermouth. We've been on all kinds of different stuff. So go check us out there, and then hit us up.
Absolutely. And one more thing: if there's anyone listening that saw all these bucket list bands successfully, prove it with your ticket stubs. Yeah, Chip. Prove it with your ticket stubs, and you'll get, I don't know, some kind of prize.
And you know what?
I got another. We have a hat.
Yeah,
we have a hat left.
Ooh, little giveaway. And let us know if you saw these bands and you're like, that ain't it. Because when I saw them, they were past their prime, or it wasn't what we're maybe overhyping it. I'd love to hear stuff like that. Like, someone's listening. I saw Prince. It was late in the game and he just didn't have it. Or
true.
Nas was hungover off some Henny and didn't bring it one night or something. We love that stuff. So give us a shout. Thanks for listening. This is what we do. Peace out.
Cheers, nerds.
Peace, potheads.